Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sell More Book Show, episode 486. I really had to look there to make sure I got the episode right. I'm Brian Cohen from Best Page Forward, joined by Claire Taylor from FFS Media. Claire, oh my goodness. So we are getting to the point where a lot of people have their kids at home for maybe one more month. They're maybe kind of at the end of their productivity rope a little bit. So what do you think people who have been off their schedule, whether by kids or by vacations or whatever, they're totally off their routine, but there's not an end in sight for the next 4 weeks to that routine coming back. How can these authors be kind to themselves in this challenging time?
Oh, well, I think it's so important to remember that part of writing is living, and you don't have to be typing all the time. Sometimes just being present wherever you are, whatever, off schedule thing you're doing, that's where, outside of your routine is where the really valuable lessons can be found, because you're getting information that doesn't necessarily match up with your worldview. You're being challenged in new ways. So, treat it as this is where I learn about people and living. And then you can take that into your work whenever you can get situated and sit down at a computer for long enough uninterrupted.
I love that. Yeah, no, it really is an opportunity to live your life. If you aren't living and you're just writing 24/7, it might show in your writing. And so, yeah. Makes
yeah,
a ton
it
of sense.
starts to feel stale to both the author and the reader if there's not good new stimulation.
Yes, we must be stimulated. And I think folks were maybe overstimulated by our previous week's question. What have you done in the last few years to cultivate more supportive and positive people in your creative life? And nobody responded.
They've already got all the support.
They've got the
and
support
positivity
they need.
They're like,
Yeah.
Nothing, I'm good. It's y'all that have the problem.
Well, for someone who looked at this question and said nothing, what would you say? What would be something they could do, one step to take to cultivate more supportive and positive people on the creative side of their lives?
We tend to support or to surround ourselves with people who reflect our inner beliefs. So reflect and reinforce them. So sometimes you can, cultivate a more supportive attitude towards your own creative life and cultivate some positivity, and not toxic positivity, obviously, but so, work through some of the stuff that's making you feel cynical. Maybe some of it is valid, but probably not all of it, and do that inner work. And then you're naturally going to feel like, ooh, that person is not for me if they don't align with that.
I love that. And I found for me, a lot of the ways I've worked on that inner work is through reading books that were out of my comfort zone, related to personal development, self-help kind of stuff. And it's made a huge difference in my life. And then, yes, I did find myself more gravitated towards people who were pro creativity, and I think that was a really good piece of advice there, Claire. Good work. You rock. So
that's why I surround myself with you, Brian.
I know. I'm here. Hello. Oh my goodness. So we need some positivity because people are always frustrated and stressed out by some of the technological things happening in our world. And so we're going to go ahead and read this top story.
And breathe deeply through in your stomach. Breathe deeply. Box breathing, everyone.
Box breathing. Yes, exactly. An AI named Sue. 2 best-selling novelists filed a suit against OpenAI, claiming the company used their intellectual property to train its artificial intelligence chatbot, reports Jay Thorne in his Creative AI Digest. Authors Mona Awad and Paul Tremblay are claiming that OpenAI has been fed their writings, copyrighted content, without their permission. Says the legal filing, When ChatGPT is prompted, ChatGPT generates summaries of plaintiffs' copyrighted works, something only possible if ChatGPT was trained on the plaintiff's copyrighted works. Jay Thorne disagrees, saying, this could have easily been done if ChatGPT scraped the book's Amazon reviews, end quote. Or, he says, by ingesting book descriptions and third-party reviews on freely available websites. The suit, however, alleges that AI companies have all but admitted to using illegally obtained copyrighted material in their training by naming their sources. Some AI companies have said they use data from sites that aggregated ebooks, such as Smashwords, and obtained without author permission. Another case has been brought by comedian and author Sarah Silverman. As reported by The Verge, Silverman's suit accuses the AI companies of using data sets featuring illegally acquired data, which they got from shadow library websites like Bibliotech, Library Genesis, Z Library, and in bulk on torrent systems. Due to the backlash, most AI companies have since stopped revealing their sources. The bigger question is whether we're going to hold machine learning to a different standard than meat suit learning, says Thorne. Maybe that's what this lawsuit is about. If I ingest an author's book, study it, and then write a book in the same genre, am I infringing on their copyright? I've seen some info since this came out, Claire, where it did seem like the judge was maybe not too keen on letting this suit actually go to court. But I'm very interested in us having a calm and reasonable discussion
I'll cut you, Brian. I'll cut you if you disagree with me.
Jay brings up a really interesting point.
Yes.
If I read a book, if I read a romantasy book and then I write a romantasy book, am I infringing on the copyright? Because that is what Jay is saying. Even if they did use the copyrighted material, which has not officially been proven one way or the other.
Yeah, I think there are so many fascinating philosophical questions around this. And it's very hard to get at those and be productive in the discussion of those to try and reach a consensus when people are taking extreme views one way or the other. And when people are so scared, which it's fear, but it's also other emotions that are coming up. And this has become a very emotional topic. But I think that there's some really interesting philosophical discussions about how is what it is doing by digesting these books and creating something different from what humans have always done in reading and writing, right? You read, you absorb, you write. And I think that there are some differences, but I think there's also a lot more similarities than some people are willing to talk about.
Right.
If you pull a full phrase from someone else's book and put it in your own book, that's not really digesting, right? That's just plagiarism. But I think that there has always been turns of phrase or new words that authors have taken from each other and put in their own, and that's how the language evolves. And I think that that's always been an accepted form of sort of synthesis of material. And I think that when writers first start out, they tend to try and mimic voices of writers that they really like.
Absolutely.
And that has always been the case. And that has created some really great things because you can't mimic exactly, right? You're going to be a little bit off. You're going to have a little bit of yourself in it. And then that's how these types of voices evolve. So I think that's something to discuss. I don't know if that is necessarily what AI is doing. But I also think, well, if we're going to say it can take those, it should have to pay authors for at least one copy before it ingests it, right?
You'd think. I mean, and if millions of computers are going to be doing this kind of thing on a regular basis, there is fair compensation there. Of course, there is a lot of discussion right now with AI and screenwriters and actors as they are all on strike, in part because of AI and in part because of streaming rights. But Claire, to your point, it sounds like there could be the philosophical discussion that it is very similar to that we do the same thing that AI is doing. So the first hot potato of wisdom question is, if they are the same or similar enough, should AI be held to a higher standard when it comes to reading books and then using that ingested data to create new works?
Okay, so should AI be held to a higher standard than just human beings?
Yeah.
Meat suits. When it comes to ingesting information and then creating new works, I just think that there's so much to parse through with the details on that, that it should be held to maybe a similar standard if it's apples to apples, but it's really not, because AI is able to ingest and process so much more than any human could in their lifetime.
Right.
So that then gives it a slight advantage where it's like, okay, well then what standards, like how do we account for that in the standards? I think that there is so much to discuss, so many bits and pieces in the AI question that we're going to have to wait for, litigation to settle. We're going to have to have long discussions about it, and it's going to be a while before we can figure that out. But I think that holding AI to at least the standards that humans are held to is a good start.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, at least, it is not certain right now if they are being held at the same standard. So at least bringing it up to equal is a step in the right direction. That makes total sense.
All right, Brian, can writers protect themselves and their IP from being used to train AI? And should they even try?
Should writers take extra steps to be protected from AI? Well, I mean, I have heard that there's a scam going around with all sorts of things related to AI and getting your book certified that AI had no piece of it and it had no factor in the writing of this book. And there are going to be plenty of scams, if they haven't already happened, that claim that they're going to be able to protect your book from AI. I'm not certain there's any way to 100% lock it down, just like there's no way to 100% copy protect your book. And so I do think that this might be one of those things that authors should focus less on and focus more on their attention of how they're going to stand out, how their brand, how the way that they connect with readers is going to continue to endure in a different marketplace than the one before AI. You need to be more human. You need to stand out more. You need to make sure you are really making connections with readers. And if you're spending all your time worried about how can you protect your book, you're not going to be able to spend the time that is needed to connect with those readers.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of certainty seeking here that I don't know if it's going to work out.
I love, Claire, I love hanging out with you because I hear terms that I wouldn't have thought of before. Certainty seeking is probably something from hearing you say it that has been used millions of times, but I've never heard it. And I'm like, oh yeah, we do a lot of that, don't we?
We do. We try everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And
especially, I was talking with Becca Simon about this, especially if we're number one strategic, like you and I are.
Da, 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 da.
But maybe there's a way. Maybe there's a way I just haven't seen yet. Let me try something else to make to be certain.
Button. We're gonna have some lightning now. Lightning. So Claire, when it comes to book marketing, are most authors pantsers or plotters?
Does this mean that, like, do people plan how they're marketing, or do they? I don't understand the question.
Yeah.
Okay. I think when it comes to book marketing, it is a pretty even split between sort of making it up as you go and having a plan ahead of time. It can be helpful to consider writing the book part of the marketing. in that
yeah.
you are developing the book for a specific set of readers who are really going to like it. And that doesn't have to be like, I'm writing this specifically for this genre. It could be, I'm writing this for all of the women who were told X, Y, or Z when they were little, right? So you know who you're writing it to, and then that will help you verbalize that in the marketing. But I think it's also a little bit of both. I think most people are a little bit of both. You have a plan, you see how it works. Some things work, some things don't. Even if they've worked before, maybe they're not working now. And so you got to kind of be on your heels and make those decisions. Like, okay, do I just call it and say, okay, this launch was not what I expected? Do I throw some more money at it? Where can I throw that money that might be effective? What do I need to do from here? So I think it's usually right in the middle of the pantsing or plotting, the planning or the improvising with the marketing.
Very nice. And it could be called the pantser of marketing, a discovery marketer.
Yeah, there you go. And then the non-pantser is the Winnie the Pooh marketer.
Yeah,
No pants.
exactly. No pants. No pants.
Okay, Brian, I got a question for you.
Oh.
Lightning time. When, if ever, should an author create a business plan for their writing and publishing?
So I think authors should consider having a business plan for their books, even if they know that business plan will not survive the light of actual reality. A business plan isn't about having something that you're going to stick to every moment. A business plan is a growing, living creature of your business. But if you have no plan to begin with, if you don't have things like, as Claire just mentioned, the writing being part of the marketing, if you don't have things kind of settled in some way, shape, or form at first, then imagine just how much it'll go off the rails if you had no plan to begin with. So I think it's helpful to have a plan that is researched, that you understand, and then be willing to be wrong. Have the beginner mindset so you're willing to change things when you learn new information, because a business plan should be written in crayon, not in stone.
I love that. Yes.
Thanks. I appreciate that. So
I was thinking about, I had these shower crayons for a while.
Yes, we had those.
I encourage everyone, if you are a shower thinker, to get some shower crayons and write your ideas down in the shower.
Smart. Yeah, they also have little magnetic board things that I think have waterproof markers or something. Mm-hmm. I just think of that because shower crayons are hard to get off. I don't know.
yeah. You gotta use that
murder idea, scum. And then it's in there. No, it's for the book. It's for the book.
I think the luminol might pick it up later.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, Claire, when a plan goes wrong with your publishing or your marketing, what is your process like to get over that moment and to pivot?
When a plan goes wrong with my publishing and marketing, which happens more than it doesn't happen, I always make sure that I give myself a little bit of time to just feel the emotions with that. Sometimes that's disappointment. Sometimes that's frustration. Sometimes it's just befuddlement. There's all kinds of emotions that can come up from having an expectation of how your plan will work out and then it not being met. So I think it's important to allow yourself time and not be like, okay, I gotta immediately fix it. I like to go out in my backyard, look at the garden, lay in the hammock if the direct sun is not on me. Or go pet the dog or something that is absolutely not tied to my productivity and the success of that plan. And then come back when I have an idea. And that could be 15 minutes later. That could be 2 days later. So just allowing my emotions to work on their time frame, work through them. We want to believe that emotions can work on our time frame, but that is not how it happens.
Yeah.
So it is important to make sure that you've moved through those emotions first. Otherwise, they will be dictating your decision-making process without you perhaps realizing it. So that is how I deal with it. I let it happen, And then I come back when I feel like I am inspired and energized to tackle the challenge.
I love that. It's a very healthy mental approach to dealing with those challenges.
I am too tired to do anything else lately, so we are prioritizing health.
Love
okay,
it.
Brian. How should authors get real with themselves about the expectations of a launch or even a career?
I think authors need to get real with themselves for their expectations, because when you first come in, you have these sky-high expectations that your first book is going to make your career and that people are going to snatch it up automatically. But you need to get into the space. You need to understand. You need to talk to people who are willing to be real. And that doesn't mean you talk to super pessimists. It means that you talk to other authors so that you get an understanding. Because if you set these crazy expectations and then you don't reach them for book one, and then you hear, actually, you should have expected much less, you kind of still hold on to those expectations for quite some time. You need to get realigned with what is real, with what is possible, because it's going to be a lot of hard work to achieve any goal. And you should not have to do the extra work of lugging around these unfortunate expectations, because it's going to drain your energy, it's going to drain your time, and you could spend that time and energy better.
Absolutely. I love that.
Well, thanks. Thank you. Claire, to finish us off for this lightning round, if an author catches themselves being extremely resistant to constructive criticism, either in the writing or the marketing or the publishing, what should they consider doing to open up their minds?
Yeah. Okay. So constructive criticism can feel very painful. And there are a lot of reasons why it can feel very painful. It can feel personal, most of all. Mm-hmm. So rather than someone saying, hey, try this with your book, you hear, hey, you're, worthless. Or just a little sidestep for what they're actually saying. So if you notice that you are feeling, sometimes it's a physical reaction that you feel when you get constructive criticism, or you just are immediately putting up defenses, right? I've seen this a lot when someone's like, hey, can y'all help me brainstorm? And every single suggestion is shot down. That usually means that we are in an elevated emotional state, or that there is something going on that we have connected to criticism. That's what that criticism is saying about us, that we believe. So we're translating all that criticism into something really painful that's probably too painful for us to deal with at the time. So if you're feeling that, two people are going to be feeling different things associated with that, by the way. You can come talk to someone like me who does Enneagram coaching, because I can help you decode that. But it really is about, what are you trying to accomplish? And if you are just looking objectively at what you have accomplished so far and it is not where you want it to be, you have to try something new. And you may not be the best person to decide what that new thing is if you are in sort of that defensive state. So maybe you should just, even if it's just out of spite to prove someone wrong, try some of the criticism, try some of the suggestions, take some of that into account and just see what happens. And just recognize that sometimes we are not in the best state to see the different possibilities, but that doesn't mean that there aren't better possibilities.
So good. I have no notes.
Yes.
Let's go into the question of the week here. Claire, can we talk about, I know people will firestorm anything AI. Can we just talk about how can you be more human in your connection with your readers?
I think that is great.
Awesome. So how can
we need to come up with a code word for AI so that if we do need to talk about it in our Facebook group, it's not searchable.
How about IA? No.
That's different. That just makes me think of internal investigations. Yeah, internal affairs.
Well, regardless, we'll think of a code word soon, but how can you be more human in connecting with your readers? You can answer the question of the week at sellmorebookshow.com, in the comment section for 486, or in the Sell More Book Show After Party Facebook group. Claire, any last parting words for today's show?
No. How
No.
about you, Brian? Maybe you can come up with something snappy.
I would say that we need to plan things. We need to have realistic expectations, and we need to be open to hearing feedback from smart people.
Mm-hmm. Open to feedback from smart people is a big determinant of success.
Yes, yes, you heard it here first, folks. So, for Claire, I'm Brian. Have a great week of book selling, everybody. And we will talk to you next week for episode 487. Bye.
Bye.